Hi, everyone. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's vlog post. We're in October. It's the third week. So here we are, part 3 of business planning for 2023. Again, in the first 2 sessions, we've gone over where we are in our business, the tools that we have, and what we're bringing forward. Last week, we discussed where do we want to go? What does our business look like when we get there? And this week, we're going to go into the piece of the puzzle that talks about the how. How are we going to get to where we're going to go? What are we going to use? What are the mechanisms? What are the things that we're going to do? All of those things that we kind of have to map out to understand. It's just like any other trip or journey. You want to go from where I live in West Palm Beach to St. Louis, Missouri. You certainly could walk or run. You could take a train. You could drive, take a bus, take a plane, even in a plane trip. That plane trip can go a number of different ways from a number of different airports. You may have to, I could leave out of West Palm Beach, but maybe I have to change planes in Atlanta. But if I drive to Fort Lauderdale, I can fly there directly. The result is the same. You were at a place and you went to another place. And that's really kind of what this session's about, is the how. And again, just like the first 2 sessions, we're going to write some things down. There are questions we need to ask. They may apply, they may not apply. They may apply differently to each one of you, depending upon what your business looks like and the tools that you have at your disposal or what you want to incorporate into your business. But from a generic standpoint, these will help you at least map out or give you a framework on how to get there. So the first question that we come up with is, what is my market? What is it? Who is my customer? What am I trying to get in front of? Are there multiple layers of that particular market? It really is important to know these things. Questions like, what's market share? What market share is, purchase business under 300,000? What market share is purchase business from 300,000 to 500,000? What's market share 500,000 to 700,000? How many units get sold over $700,000? Those are important things to look at, because you can't just say, hey, I'm going to improve my business. I'm going to tackle the $1 million housing market. I'm going to be the $1 million mortgage professional in my area, and find out that in your market or in your surrounding areas, there was, 5 transactions at $1 million all year last year. You're not going to survive on $5 million if you were fortunate enough to get all 5 of them. So the point is make sure that you're looking at your market and seeing what your market has to offer. And we do that by looking at the breakdown of transactions. The next question you have to look at, and this is often overlooked, are what are the geographical divides in my community, and do they matter? In some markets, in some places I've been, the geography is obvious. There are places that have clearly distinct communities. Some are naturally divided by things like a river or a stream or railroad or the highway, the interstate. There are, communities that are divided by where certain businesses are, or there may be a lake community, or there may be waterfront property. There's a lot of different things that geography can play into it, not excluding things that are very important to our business. Things like the FEMA map. In some parts of the country, flood insurance or FEMA maps don't make any sense whatsoever. And in other parts of the country, people find out that FEMA map, the drawing of that FEMA map, where those things are, the risks, the costs of insurance, flood insurance being mandatory or optional or whatever, those become very significant. So it does matter to stop for a few minutes and just ask yourself, are there natural or geographic divides community divides, different things like that. And the question becomes, and do they matter? In some places they don't. In some places you could have two different school districts and right up against each other, and it doesn't matter. People are very comfortable with their kids going to either one. In other cases, those school districts are, light years apart by some people's estimation into the quality of the education or the programs that are available to the kids. Those things can matter. So it's important that if it matters to your community, it needs to matter to you. Who is my competition? What am I competing against? Who's doing the loans in my marketplace? Is it companies? Is it people? Is it local people? Is it national companies? Or is it, what is there anything clearly defined? Or is it just, a large number of about equal groups of people doing pretty much the same thing? It's really important that you understand what your competition is, who your competition is, and what it is that they're doing and how it is that they're doing it, and how are they winning business. Do we have obvious focal points of the community? There are some communities that are still old-fashioned company towns where there's one big business and the community revolves around that company. There may be technology or different companies that focus around a similar thing based upon certain types of industry. Where I grew up, there was an aerospace company which was the largest employer in our area. And when I was a young child, that it represented like the best pinnacle place to work. It controlled probably half the high-paying jobs, if not more, in our area. As time went on, that aerospace company got smaller. Space program was over. They went from about 50 or 60,000 employees down to about 20,000 employees. But other smaller tech companies came in, more computer technology companies that were 4,000 or 5,000 employees started to sprout up all over the place. And there were hubs of business in certain areas. So we went from one huge plant company that was in one specific geographic area to a few smaller companies that were in pockets all across the area. So they were, industrial centers, if you will. That stuff becomes really important. The same thing as focal points. Is there a small town? Is there a village? Is there a community? Is there a main street? Is there business hubs? Is there shopping areas? Is there a financial district? All of these things may or may not apply, but you need to be aware of them. And the next part is how am I communicating within that community? Is there a chamber of commerce? Is there, some sort of particular group or organization that kind of, is the hub of all the social activities in the area? It's important. And again, in those towns, do the towns do things? Do the schools do things that are community driven? Those are the things that you need to pay attention to. And then looking at that and saying, who is it that I look to support and diversify my connections? Who are the groups? You can't necessarily physically support every organization, every group, every charity. But what are the one or two organizations you want to look to and saying, those are things that I believe in, those are things I can commit to, those are things I'm willing to get involved with, and understand that by doing that, you can come across a whole new realm of people and possibilities. Are there niche markets, properties, companies, or organizations? This kind of ties everything we were just talking about together, that can jump out and say, this is a dominant force, or this is a very popular organization. Could even revolve around a church or churches. Could be around a lot of different things, but you have to look to see. The other question you can ask yourself is, what do I do to help these places? How can I help? And to me, I think it's relatively important that says if you're going to build something, or you're going to work with people to build something, or you're going to help people build something, that it becomes really important that you become a worker, not just a visionary, or not just a person pointing the finger saying you should do this or you should do that, but actually being the one that you get out there, roll up your sleeves and do the work, and understand that with every organization that you support or you assist, sometimes the most incredible thing that you can do, sometimes the biggest help that there can be in any organization, is just showing up and doing whatever task is necessary. If it's putting out the garbage or sweeping the floor, or picking up debris from around the outside of the building, or washing a window, or doing the dishes, or whatever, just rolling up your sleeves and doing the work. A lot of times that gets noticed, because in many organizations, and believe me, I've experienced this firsthand, people get into these organizations to sit on the board of directors and point their finger and spend, organization money, and having meeting after meeting after meeting where they delegate and pontificate about getting things done, and very rarely does anything happen. So again, it's really important that you understand that this journey, this destiny, the how we're going to go from where we were to where we're going, is up for you to decide. But if you don't write down what your options are, if you don't look at what all is possible, you may be missing out on some very clear things. Now, next week, we're going to pull all these pieces together, and we're going to get to the really critical mass here, which is scheduling the tasks associated with all the answers to all the questions that we've asked these first 3 weeks. So I look forward to talking to you again next week. If you have any questions or comments, it's Mike at imtcoaching.com. Take care.